L'chaim, l'chaim l'bracha, everybody. Blessings and success. Ah, I already made a bracha. Welcome to the Rebbe's Maimer, the last one that we have till this point that the Rebbe gave out. Ata titzava. You make the connection. Moshe, the Moshe in every generation. And then v'yikwei lecha, the Jewish people shall bring to you the crushingness of exile, and which brings out the ma'or, the luminary from within, brings out the core essence of our being. So in the Hasidic discourse of the previous Rebbe, the emphasis is on the Rai Mehemna, the faithful shepherd that is ultimately in every generation an extension of Moses, of Moshe Rabbeinu, who feeds faith, feeds us in such a way that it touches the core of our essence and allows us to be able to put ourselves aside to do the will of God. Sometimes that's easy, sometimes that's hard. However, in the verse, it sounds like it's the doing of the Jew, that they will bring the crushed olive oil that comes from the olives, that is metaphorically through touching the core essence and the ma'or of our soul, the core essence of our soul. So the verse seems to make it sound like it's our doing. In the Hasidic discourse, it sounds like it's the doing of the faithful shepherd, the leader of the generation. So how are we supposed to understand this? So here we come to the key of the discourse. And going back now, to the story of Purim. And if you recall, we said that the story of Purim brings a completion to Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah, Mount Sinai. And Mount Sinai, we only started. Where did we complete? Is in the story of Purim. Even though Mount Sinai, we were on a very lofty level spiritually, but we only began the journey. The journey comes full by the story of Purim, because then really we accepted God. Mount Sinai, it was kind of, in a sense, forced upon us. The light of God was so obvious, God's presence so palpable and real. You had a choice to say Nasav and Ishma. But Purim is a time of not just exile, but a decree in exile from Haman to destroy, annihilate every single Jew. And the Jews then accept God? Oh, that's much greater. Now, this idea that Kibul HaYehudim is Eis Asher Chen L'Lasos, that it says in the verse in the story of Purim, that the Jewish people began at Mount Sinai and concluded here in the story of Purim, It's interesting where it states and makes that comment after the decree of Haman, after we won the war, where things were, you know, one second, I don't know if it was after we won the war. But after Haman was hung already, and Haman's house was even given to Esther. So, which is a little odd. So Rebbe says, this tells us that there's two kind of acceptance here of the Jewish people of God. There's an acceptance when things were heavy, when there was a lot of darkness, a decree of Haman to annihilate all of the Jewish people. And yet the Jewish people accepted God, right? They didn't they didn't opt out, because if you opted out from being Jewish, the decree didn't fall upon you. You're not like by the Nazis, Yimach Shema. Okay. It didn't, the decree had no bearing on you, but no Jew did that. That's self-sacrifice, because human condition is survival. That's the bottom line, survival. Survival takes on many different colors, but basic survival is your literal life. Because survival could be your emotional, psychological well-being, but then there's your, physical well-being. So there was survival. And yet the Jew did not consider that. They considered only their connection to God, accepting God, publicly displaying their Jewishness, publicly praying, publicly learning Torah, led by Mordechai. Yet this statement that we have total acceptance was not during that time period, even though it was then. But comes out, and this is the real chiddush, the real novelty that the Rebbe brings out in this teachings, is that it was also afterwards. Which, now let's bring this to the idea of kosis. Kosis means crushed. So there can be two kinds of crushing in your life. One is external and one is internal. External means that there's something happening out there, right, that brings you to a state of being crushed. Right? There's some kind of decree. And a decree could be just, a decree from heaven, God forbid, for lack of health, lack of livelihood, right? So that compels the person. Are they become more seeking survival, or are they crushed that it brings out the luminary from within and you seek the connection with God, right? No, that's what happened, Purim. That's what we're talking about here in the verse, right? Crush. But then there's another, just like in Purim, when the story was told, or when the statement was made about the acceptance of God, it was not during the time of the decree. Haman was killed. Not only was it killed, the house was given to Esther. Yes, we were still in exile because we were still servants of Achashverosh, but hey, things were looking up. Things were, in a very different mindset. So likewise, we can be in a time of exile where we have plenty, both materially and spiritually. We have everything. Hey, sounds like today, right? We have everything. We're not lacking, not materially, so we're not looking for survival, not spiritually, so we're not looking, even spiritually, we're alive. Yet we feel crushed being in exile, just by the fact of being exiled. So it's nothing from the outside, it's something from the inside of the individual. Wow. Just because you're you're in exile, experiencing exile, you've got it all from a from the human perspective. Life's to celebrate, and yet you feel crushed because just by the mere fact you're in exile. So, what does this mean exactly? First, it means l'chaim, chaim v'bracha. So it means like this: by the bare fact that the Jewish people are broken because they're in exile, even though they got it all materially and spiritually, like what we're living now, you might say, huh, so leptechatog, life, you know, the day is alive, the day is full, the day is meaningful, the day is wonderful. And it is, right? And it is. However, the true will of the individual Jew, this is like very powerful, is that there should be revealed godliness. And this touches the Jew to the very core of their being. Therefore, in the time of exile, that there's not the revelation of godliness as it was in the times of the Holy Temple, for example, and especially as our sages say, that if we didn't build the Beis Hamikdash in our days, meaning the third Holy Temple and having the divine presence of God, it's as if we've destroyed the Holy Temple. Powerful statement. So the very core of the person is in ganzen Zitzreisold, totally moved and how to say that better? In Yiddish, it sounds a lot more powerful. Not just moved, but like completely moved. Kossis, as the word says in the verse, crushed. And even if this is speaking about a lofty individual, like the Rebbe, right? That it's shining by him, the light of God, even in exile. But since the light of God is not shining everywhere, there's a corner of the world where the light of God is not shining. It's not really truly shining even by him then, by that holy, righteous person, because it's limited, that light that's shining. The light only shines in one spot or in many spots even, but there's a spot that's missing. That means the quality of the light is a limited light of God that's being revealed. But if the light of God is shining everywhere, it means it's a limitless light. So therefore, even where the light of God was shining previously, it's not the same quality light. So by the Rebbe, the Rebbe's not saying this about himself, but I'm saying it. The light of God was shining. The Rebbe was completely connected, completely aligned, that the light of God was clearly animating him, his world, everything. As a famous story of the Mendel Haradoker, who was one of the teachers of the Alter Rebbe, who moved to Israel in 1777. And there was a lot of calamity. The Mashiach come, there was blowing of the shofar. And, people saying that Mashiach had come. So he went to the window and he sniffed. And he said, no, Mashiach has not yet come. So they asked the question, why do you have to go to the window? Because in his room, Mashiach was there. The revelation of God was there. He had to go and smell what's on the outside. Does that smell like Mashiach? It wasn't. Inside was. So the Rebbe, right? But even as Mashiach is in his room, right? It's not the same light. It's not the same light of godliness. It's limited. It's only in his room. Maybe other righteous people too, but right? But that means a limited light of God. If light of God is everywhere, then it's unlimited. And the fact that it isn't everywhere, that breaks the person. That crushes the person. So you can have 49 levels of holiness, but if you don't have the 50th, you're broken. And the word chayle, sick, is the gematria 49. You've got 49 levels of holiness. Imagine, right? Like the counting of the Sphira, right? You've accomplished everything. The 50th is coming from above, from God, right? The revelation of God, right? And you don't have that. You're sick. Sick in the fact that you feel broken because you're lovesick for the revelation of godliness, not merely to you, but to the entire world. This is what the Alter Rebbe used to say, as was heard from the Tzemach Tzedek, his grandson. Ich will garnet. I want nothing. Ich will nicht dein Gan Eden. I don't want your Gan Eden, Garden of Eden. I don't will nicht dein Elam Haba. I don't want your world to come. Ich will mehr nicht dich allein. I want only you. I don't want revelations of you, God. I want the essence of God. And the essence of God will mean that he's revealed everywhere. That's what Alter Rebbe wanted. And he was lovesick for that the revelation of the essence of God should be, because then that will be everywhere. And by the fact that the Tzemach Tzedek told us this, right? So it means it's not just something for the righteous, because the fact that he revealed this about the Alter Rebbe, that he used to say this, often, means that the true desire of every Jew is that they want nothing but the core essence of God, not revelations of God. Real connection as opposed to experience. Revelation is experience. Having God revealed is an experience, boy. But they want connection. And that's what we ask 3 times a day in our davening, that he should that you should show us in our eyes when you return to Zion with compassion. It should be then the revelation of the core essence of God, right? That's what it means, kosis lamor, that we're crushed, that it brings out the luminary, that when we're in exile, we have everything, materially and spiritually. And spiritually, we feel, the light of God that we're connected to. But our true will is that revelation of godliness should not be merely for me, and it's not about me and my experience of it, but it should be in every corner of the world, and that comes from the core essence of our soul. That's like beyond. That's beyond when you think about it. So how do you translate that? I'm just translating. If you see another Jew or another human being, and there's missing godliness in their life, that bothers you. So you want to put on tefillin with the Jew. You want to bring godliness to their life. The godliness should be revealed everywhere. That's one way it'll express itself. Now, of course, you got to do it in an appropriate way, not like, And anyways, more on that. All right. Powerful stuff.